What does it mean to love? In this series on Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, we have been looking at Jesus' character sketch of the kind of people whose lives reflect God's new world, also known as the kingdom of God. The Beatitudes give us a picture of the internal character that is blessed, whole, and joyful. Jesus' teaching about God's grace that enables us to be salt and light describes our outward focus, to bring out the God flavors and God colors. But how can we know if we are living right? What does the life of God's world look like in practical, everyday terms? In this next section of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus gets specific regarding how to love. Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, 'You shall not murder,' and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, 'You fool,' you will be liable to the hell of fire." Failure to love, sin, hurts ourselves. Whenever you are angry, you are filling your days with anguish. Whenever you are angry, you are making your life a living hell. Amy Olden said, "Jesus shifts our attention from particular behaviors we must avoid to particular interior orientations we must cultivate. Kingdom righteousness saturates our whole lives and promises much more too. It is the way of blessedness. Love starts with your thoughts. Purging your thoughts of every angry, negative, hurtful, diminishing thought and replacing them with pure, loving thoughts. Immanuel Kant said, "In law, a person is guilty when they violate the rights of others. In ethics, they are guilty if they even think of doing so." Jesus is challenging us to a deeper understanding of what it means to love. Righteousness means obedience to the will of God from the inmost being, in which actions are rooted in justice and concern for others, not just about fulfilling the outward forms of the law. Obedience must become internal if it is to bring genuine love, which yields abundant life for everyone. Jesus has already proclaimed that he has come to fulfill the law and the prophets. Jesus instructs us to do much more than fulfill the letter of the law. We are to fulfill the spirit and intent of the law. Anger is the underlying cause of physical violence. We are called to do much more than to do no physical harm. We are not to say an angry word. We are not to even ever think an angry thought. Angry words and thoughts are a kind of character assassination, a socially acceptable violence that kills love. The way of the kingdom of God means that the way we relate to everyone changes, not just our friends, but also those we despise and those who can't stand us either. It is not easy to love someone who we feel is unlovely. When we are attacked, we tend to attack back. When we are threatened, we threaten. Our natural posture is defensiveness. Jesus lumps all defensiveness under the same rubric. To be angry is the same as murder. Often when one gets angry, they have crazy conversations in their mind. They said this, I will say that, and then they'll respond like this, and then I will have this zinger of a response. And usually in one's mind, the battle is won. But in the process, the other person is humiliated, put down, dehumanized. In one's mind, they are murdered. Jesus says the Christian life does not consist of these mental battles. Instead, we are to make peace in every way, for blessed are the peacemakers. Retaliation is never an aspect of Christian existence. Rather, we are to love. Angry thoughts, defensiveness, retaliation are all symptoms of limited forgiveness. God is grace. We are to be gracious. There is no limit to God's forgiveness. We are to have no limits on our forgiveness. Susanna Metz said, Jesus says not even to call another you fool. That's nothing in comparison to what we call each other today, face to face as well as behind each other's back. But Jesus seems very serious about this kind of language. You'll be liable to the hell of fire. She continues, really? Oh, come on. But maybe we just don't want to think about the hurt and tearing apart of relationships that happen when we use our precious gift of language as a weapon. We have a choice. Will we choose life-giving words or life-destroying words? Our language is one of our most powerful gifts, and everyone has access to that power. Choose life so that you and your descendants may live, loving the Lord your God. And those thoughts are not just in regards to other people. They are towards yourself, too. Are you always thinking loving, positive, affirming, uplifting thoughts for yourself? Or do you sometimes murder yourself in your thoughts? There is righteous anger that seeks to right wrongs. Righteous anger is fueled by love for all people. Righteous anger is never aimed at a person or a group of people. Rather, it is aimed at a specific action. This is really important. Righteous anger is aimed at a specific action, never the person. Labels diminish. Avoid thoughts such as, all Democrats are liberal, all Republicans are conservative, which divide people into sides that must be angry at each other. Focus on the issue. Love the person. Which statement is hateful, hurtful anger, enriches righteous anger? You evil, liberal, democratic tree hugger, you are killing jobs. You are destroying my family. Or, my family and friends lost their jobs when the environmental regulations were enforced. How can we care for the environment and the trees and maintain meaningful employment for my family and friends? Learning how to turn your anger into love is important in all of your relationships. It involves active listening so you understand the other person's perspective. It involves being assertive about your feelings right away so that anger and resentment does not build. It involves using I statements to own your feelings, your perspective and needs, instead of you statements that blame. It involves specifically naming the hurtful action. Which would you rather hear? You are an ungrateful person. I felt sad when you did not say thank you for the projects I completed today. About 15 years ago, after meditating on the Sermon on the Mount, I resolved to try to rid all my speech and every thought of the word hate. I used to say things like, I hate beets, or I would think in my mind, I hate shopping. To end the use of the word hate, I acknowledge my perspective and think a grateful thought instead. I dislike beets. Beets are not for me, yet other people enjoy beets. I am grateful for the gift of taste, that everyone has a favorite food, and I can choose what to eat. I do not enjoy shopping, yet I love being with certain people who do enjoy shopping. And I am grateful that I can shop with them, and I am grateful that I have the means and money to go shopping. After a few years, I have discovered that whenever the word hate enters my mind or comes out in speech, I am immediately aware, which enables me to wrestle with that hate before it grows. Avoiding hate makes me more whole and joyful. This whole process has made me sensitive to whenever anyone says the word hate. Just ask Spencer or Abigail about that sometime. It's just one step on my quest to be a more loving person. Eugene Peterson wrote, "Anger is a useful diagnostic tool. When anger erupts in us, it is a signal that something is wrong. Something isn't working right. There is evil or incompetence or stupidity lurking around. Anger is our sixth sense for sniffing out wrong in the neighborhood. What anger fails to do, though, is tell us whether the wrong is outside or inside us. We usually begin by assuming that the wrong is outside us, our spouse, or our child, or our employer, or our God has done something wrong, and we are angry. That is what Jonah did, and he quarreled with God. But when we track anger carefully, we often find it leads to some wrong within us. Wrong information, inadequate, incomplete understanding, or an underdeveloped heart. Hate, negativity, anger, all murder ourselves and murders others. Anger dehumanizes ourselves and dehumanizes others. Every time we decide to allow anger to smolder inside of us, we become less than human, less than the person God created us to be. Instead of merely avoiding murder, avoiding anger, we are to embrace reconciliation that leads to community. Jesus continues, "So when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny." You cannot love God when you devalue another person whom God has created. Therefore, we must always seek reconciliation before our love can be accepted by our holy, loving God. Jesus is recalling the emphasis of the prophets on compassion, mercy, and right living that brings everyone together in loving community, that unites everyone together in harmony. One's gift, that is love, is accepted by God when we repent over all the ways we have injured others, the ways that we have injured ourselves, even in our thoughts, when we turn from anger to love. You cannot love God when you devalue another person. Getting even with that person that has wronged you, surpassing that person that you cannot stand, winning an argument with the person that has slighted you, in reality or in the fantasy of your mind, diminishes yourself and others. Seeking revenge, even against terrorists, destroys love. Angry talk about how we have been hurt fuels hate, division, and violence. Anger destroys peace. And anger would destroy us and our future as well if it were not for God's grace constantly being imputed into our lives and into the world. Escalating violent revenge over the years has murdered billions of people. The maxim, an eye for an eye, was an attempt to break the cycle, declaring that you can only take an eye from a person that has taken your eye. You cannot also kill their family, because we tend to always want to escalate things. Jesus takes it much further. Instead of any form of revenge, even in your mind, there is to be reconciliation, grace, compassion, and peace. Abraham Lincoln advised that the best way to destroy your enemy is to turn them into your friend. Gandhi said an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. You cannot love God when you devalue another person. Anger never succeeds in breaking the cycle of violence. Only love will make us all whole, blessed, and joyful. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." Jesus continues, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart." Lust dehumanizes another into an object that one uses for their own pleasure. Lust is selfish. Lust tries to control another. Lust creates an imbalance in power. All human relationships are to be based on mutual respect. There is to be mutual power. Lust drives a couple apart. Love always builds the others up, which brings the couple together. Jesus continues, "If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell." Jesus commands us to remove anything from our life that causes us to falter in love. Because when we fail to love, we create a living hell for ourselves. We must purge our feelings and thoughts of all anger and lust to fully love. We must stop thinking and doing that which harms ourselves and others. We need to get rid of old destructive behaviors, habits, and thoughts before they destroy us. If you want to be healthy, stop doing those things that harm you. If you want harmony in your life, stop doing those things that cause discord. If you want peace in the world, stop doing those things that lead to fighting. And if you want a closer relationship with your children, stop doing those things that build up walls between you. If you want to rekindle romance in your marriage, stop doing those things that are creating boredom. If you want to live in a close-knit, caring community, stop hiding behind your front door. If you want a spiritual life that fills you up, stop pouring your energies everywhere but toward God. You can have a renewed marriage, a renewed body, a renewed attitude, a renewed spirit, a renewed career, a renewed community, a renewed world, but only by stopping the old destructive, hurtful behaviors, by stopping those negative thoughts that we tend to keep recycling over and over in our minds. The change we want to come about in our lives will not happen by just wishing it to be so. We must change our thought pattern. We must cut ourselves off from our old attitudes. Throw those old attitudes and thoughts away and replace them with loving attitudes and loving thoughts. Albert Bernstein and Sidney Kraft Rosen identified 10 mental obstacles that we need to completely cut out of our thoughts. Denial. I don't see the problem, so it isn't there. Blind spots and shortcuts. What I don't like can't be important. Self-interest. Always looking out for number one. Mind reading. People should know what I want without me telling them. Blame. If something goes wrong, it has to be somebody's fault. Being nice. Avoiding conflict at all costs. Perfection. If it's not perfect, it's nothing. Fairness. I don't need to negotiate for what I want. I just want fairness. Excuses. There's always a good reason why I don't follow the rules everyone else works by. Being right. There's a right way and a wrong way, and my way is always the right way. Gregory Jones wrote, "Isn't it interesting that when we're talking about a ballet dancer, or if you were to prefer Michael Jordan on the basketball court, we sometimes describe them as being graceful full of grace. Yet anybody who has ever undertaken the craft of ballet or piano or basketball knows how much work day by day goes into the cultivation of that gracefulness. In this sense, gracefulness is not simply a process of sitting back and waiting for it to happen. Rather, through the activity of daily habits, people are prepared to move gracefully in a way that transcends their day-to-day preparations. In time, it becomes so natural that the graceful performer doesn't have to think it through. The gracefulness develops over time so that eventually the steps come together in a powerful new way, a performance. This happens through daily obligation, through daily thoughts. The Apostle Paul wrote, "Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you. In your every thought, feeling, and action, love yourself, love others, love God." Let us take a moment of silence to center with God.